Start recording. We're recording now. Everybody say hello to Stan.
Hi, Stan.
Hi.
You go get a Girl Scout cookie.
You want a cookie?
Get a cookie.
We can email you a cookie.
Everybody sends me cookies on my emails.
Everybody does send you cookies on your email. That's true. That's true. These are better, though.
That's true.
These are better.
Any chocolate in there?
Yes, these are Thin Mints.
Yeah, the best. The best.
Okay, well, at this point.
Okay. So, we are on the last aliyot of Parashat Chayyei Sarah. So begins on 137 if you have Eitz Chaim in front of you. Yeah. So since we're all friends here, I'm going to say the following. This week has wiped me out. I'm sure it's wiped a lot of people out. And I really gave some thought to not having the class, but then I said the worst thing that we can let this guy do is stop us from studying Torah. So we're going to dedicate our Torah learning
That's
to
me.
the 11 people who were murdered. And if I seem testier than usual or lousier than usual or stupider than usual, this is why. All right. So now Abraham, now just to set it up, because we're reading the last third of the triennial, Sarah has died. Isaac has not yet wed. Abraham is worried about, what is his progeny going to be. He sends the servant back home to find a wife. Interestingly enough, Abraham just says, I want a woman from my family. But the servant Eliezer wants her to be kind also. So he finds Rebecca and then asks Rebecca if she is willing to come back and marry Isaac, and she is, okay? And that's pretty much where we come in. So 24:55. Actually, the Aliyah starts with 52. When Abraham's servant, 53. The servant brought out objects of silver and gold and garments and gave them to Rebekah, and he gave presents to her brother and her mother. Then he and the men with him ate and drank, and they spent the night. When they arose next morning, he said, give me leave to go to my master. But her brother and her mother said, let the maiden remain with us some 10 days, then you may go. All right, that's the English translation of 55. As we will see, it's not an accurate translation.
No, I guess not.
All right. So I'm going to translate it literally, and then we'll look at both translations. Vayomer achicha ve'ima, and her brother, her achiha, right? Her brother and her mother said, Teshev hana'ara itanu, let the young woman stay with us or dwell with us or sit with us. Yamim o asor, a few days or 10, achar telech, and after that she will go. Okay, that's the literal meaning. Yamim, right? I mean, you don't have to be a brilliant Hebraist to know Yamim means days, right? Ki sheshet Yamim asa Adonai, right? Right, a year. I'll tell you how they come up with a year. because it's translated according to Rashi. In other words, this translator is assuming that the verse means what Rashi says it means, and then translating it according to Rashi. So it's not even a translation; it's more of a paraphrase. Okay. So now, what does the Eitz Chaim translation say? Let the maiden remain with us some 10 days, then you may go. Eitz Chaim solves the problem of what does Yamim mean by omitting it altogether, right? Because Yamim o Asor, like literally means days or 10, right? So clearly some 10 days is not an accurate translation. A year or 10 months is not exactly an accurate translation either. Okay. First, and her brother and her mother said, where was Bethuel? Right? That Bethuel's her father. Now, we haven't read the whole story. I've just, told a little. So you might not say, well, what about her father? But he's been in the story. He's not dead. He's not away. He's not on a business trip. He's been involved. So all of a sudden, it's the mother and the brother agree. V'hechan u'Bethuel hechan haya. Where was Bethuel? Hu haya rotze la'akev uva malach v'hem mito. He wanted to stop the marriage, so an angel came and slew him.
That was an interesting job for that angel.
Okay, I can think of somebody who's in need of being slain by an angel, but I don't want to get the Secret Service after me. So we'll just leave it to your imagination.
You're not alone in those thoughts.
All right. Now, Yamim. How does Yamim mean a year? Rashi says Yamim, Shana, a year. Kamo Yamim Tehiyeh Gu'ulato. All right. In Leviticus 25:29, the time of its redemption shall be 1 full year. Let's look and see.
Leviticus 25:29. Numbers. Leviticus 20. Oh, it's enough. More.
Yeah.
No, it's in
Bahar.
29.
The ish ki yimkor beit moshav ir choma v'haita gulato atom shnat mimkaro yamim tehiyeh gulato. All right, 742. I'm going to translate it literally. All right, so the English translation: if a man sells a dwelling house in a walled city, it may be redeemed until a year has elapsed since its sale. The redemption period shall be a year. But that's the translation, right? The Hebrew says, "V'ish ki yimkor beit moshav ir choma." When a man sells a dwelling place in a walled city, v'haita gu'ulato atom shnat mimkaro. It may be redeemed until the end of the year in which it was sold. Yamim tehiyeh gu'ulato. Days shall be its redemption. Okay? So, and the comments don't really deal with it. Okay? But, so Rashi is using this verse to say that Yamim means a year, because Yamim, now actually Yamim doesn't necessarily mean a year, but it's kind of meaningless. It's hard.
Just means,
I mean, in the verse it says a year, right? But it says a year and then it says days. Okay, so it's obscure, and I don't necessarily want to get too bogged down in it, right? But Rashi's not coming out of left field entirely, right? He found another verse where Yamim could plausibly mean a year. For a maiden is granted a period of 12 months to outfit herself with ornaments.
so she's coming up with a dowry.
With her trousseau.
Yeah,
Her trousseau, right.
Trousseau, yeah.
Okay. So I guess the engagement period is a year. O Asor. Asara Chodashim, 10 months. Why? Ve'im Tomar Yamim Mamash. And now this is another reason. I have to say Rashi's argument here again, at least it holds water. If you say it means 10 days, Ein derech mivakshim levakesh davar mu'ad ve'im lo tirsei ten lanu miruba mizeh. Right? Because now he's assuming that Yamim means no. He's assuming that this verse goes back to the previous phrase and proves that Yamim means 10. Right? Because otherwise Yamim means a year. Because what he's saying here is let her stay a year, and if not a year, then 10 months. And otherwise, if you say Yamim means literally a few days, then you're saying let her stay a few days, and if not, then 10. Right? And a few is less than 10. Right? So, like, I wouldn't go to you and Gail say, Gail, lend me $5. And if you won't lend me $5, lend me 10. Right? That doesn't make any sense at all, right? Right? Lend me $5. If you won't lend me 5, then lend me 3. Right? If you won't lend me 5, then lend me 10. That doesn't make any sense, right? So that's why it's another reason that Yamim could mean a year, right? Because if we're talking about days, right? So we're not talking about days, we're talking about months, right? Because let her stay a year. All right, not a year, then 10 months. Doesn't make sense, right? Let her stay a few days, and if not a few days, then 10 days, right? Because I mean, how much is a few? I don't know, but a few, in my eyes, a few is less than 10.
It's less than 10 and more than 2.
Right? Exactly. Right? A few is like 4.
5.
Right, 5 is a few. 4 or 5 is a few. Yeah.
Could they be proposing to let her decide in a way how long she wanted to stay? So
That's coming.
That's coming up. That's coming up. No, I mean, I like what you're saying. Here, no, they're asking for Eliezer, for the servant, to stay, because he's got to stay, right? I mean, he's not going to go back to Canaan and then come back to Iraq a year later to get her. He's going to stay there, right? And therefore, it's a big deal. He's got to stay there, which means he can't communicate. Abraham, like, where's Eliezer, right? Is he ever, right? I mean, I'll just tell you, apropos of nothing, but apropos of this in a way. Kelly and I just finished watching Ken Burns' documentary on Lewis and Clark. Okay? And when you think about not only the distances that they travel, because I knew almost nothing about Lewis and Clark, which I'm ashamed to say, because my first job was in Charlottesville, and Lewis and Clark were from Charlottesville, and Jefferson sent them from Charlottesville. But they split up and then regrouped several times. And I'm thinking, how the heck are they doing that, right? They don't have cell phones. They don't have nothing, right? And yet they said, well, we'll meet you at this spot in a few days or 10. And then they did, right? And to know,
a pregnant woman.
right? I mean, unbelievable, right? So just, it's a big deal, right? I mean, it's like, we panic, right? We panic if we're trying to reach our spouse or our kid, right? Or whoever. I mean, people get mad at me. I left you a voicemail 20 minutes ago and I haven't heard back yet, I mean, it's amazing. But yeah, so in this particular case, they're asking Eliezer if he's willing to stay. Okay. Now, the next verse, yes. Okay. 27. Vayomer nikra lene'ara v'nishala et piha. Let us call the maiden and ask her. Okay. Verse 57. V'nishala et piha. We shall ask her. Literally, we shall ask her mouth, right? But we'll ask her what she says. Mikan she'ein mesi'in et ha'isha ela midata. From this we learn that we may not marry a woman off without her consent. Okay? That's what they're saying. So they makes all these deals, right? But then they say, but wait, we got to ask Rebecca what she wants. Okay, so that's...
Yeah, I'm going to show my ignorance. Had she seen Isaac yet?
No.
No, she
No,
has not
she's
seen
in
Isaac
Iraq.
yet. She's in Mesopotamia. She's in Iraq.
So there was never any time when they saw each other
No.
on the road.
No, he moved to Canaan and stayed there. Abraham moved to Canaan.
Right. Abraham moved to Canaan from Haran. Okay. Haran is maybe in Syria. I'm not sure. I mean, he's from Ur, which is definitely in Iraq, but Haran might be northern Syria, maybe even Turkey. Okay.
Wherever it is in Canaan.
Right? So he sent Eliezer back to Haran to find a wife. All right. Eliezer's there, and Eliezer maybe has other staff with him, but Isaac is back in Canaan. So no, they have not. Rivka at this point has not seen him. Okay, she hasn't even seen a picture of him. She hasn't even seen his J-date profile.
They
Right?
haven't even Skyped yet.
Right. They haven't Skyped. She hasn't been given the opportunity to
Did he
swipe.
have a tablet with his picture?
Swipe left or swipe right. None of that, right? But nevertheless, she has to consent. Right? Now, to what degree can she give? I don't exactly know, and we're not exactly privileged. I mean, all she knows, according to the text, is that it's the son of her uncle. Right? She's like, oh, he's a nice boy. He's a nice boy. Right?
Nice truth.
And they summoned Rebecca, and they said to her, will you go with this man? And she said, I will go. Vatomer elech. All right. She said, I will go. Me atzmi va'af im einchem rotzim. I will go of my own accord, even if you don't want me to. Okay. So she really wants to go. Now it's interesting because they don't seem reluctant at all, right? So why would she say, yes, even if you don't want me to, right? But
Establishing her independence.
I guess, I mean,
Or
but
some element of it.
right, but Rashi wants to show that this is something that she really wanted to do, right? And Rashi has already informed us that Bituel did not want her to do it, and that's why the angel smote him, right? Slew him. V'yivarchu et Rivka, they blessed Rebecca. V'yomru la achotenu at he'e le'alfei rivava v'yeres aracha shar son av. You, our sister, may you be to tens, to thousands of myriads. A myriad, rivava is, I think, 10,000. Like it's the next step up from a 1,000. It's a myriad. And may your seed inherit the gates of its enemies. Okay. May you become thousands of myriads. Ad v'zarech tikablu ota bracha shenemar Avraham behar hamoria. You and your seed receive that blessing that was stated to Abraham on Mount Moriah, and I will surely multiply your seed. May it be his will that those children shall be from you and not from another woman. Okay, when was this promised to Abraham on Mount Moriah?
Well, after the Akedah.
Yeah, the Akedah.
Akedah, I'm reading.
Right.
Common in line 60.
Right. After the Akedah. Okay. Right. May it be your will that those children shall be from you and not from another woman. Okay, so what is Rashi saying here?
Did we flip over? Okay.
All right. I mean, the Eitz Chaim is not really of help here because it doesn't have
That he
Rashi's
would have
commentary.
only one wife.
That he would have only one wife, or that, I mean, look, Isaac could have, I mean, Abraham could have thousands of descendants also via Ishmael, right? Or Isaac could have more than one wife, right? So in other words, Rebecca is not necessary for this promise to be fulfilled, right? The promise could be fulfilled in another way instead of Rebecca, but the blessing is that, bless you, their wish for Rebecca is that the blessing be fulfilled through her and not through somebody else. Right now, I think part of it actually is, yes, through you and not through another woman, that Isaac not have another, because Isaac is not mentioned as having any concubines,
No.
right? Abraham had, now, and we're going to see this, right? Abraham had Hagar, and then he's going to marry a woman named Keturah, which Rashi says is the same as Hagar. It's another, Keturah is Hagar's other name. But at any rate, Abraham had at least Sarah and Hagar, right? And Jacob will have Rachel, Leah, and the two
others.
The two concubines.
Right, and the two concubines, right? So, but Isaac seemed so, and maybe that's because of Bethuel's, I mean, her brother's blessing, right? I mean, it does seem that Isaac only has Rebecca, right? Now they're going back. Now Isaac was on his way coming from Be'er Lahai Roi, and he dwelt in the land of the south, Be'eretz HaNegev. Coming from Be'er Lahai Roi, Shehalach Levigar LaAvraham Aviv Sheyisa'ena, where he had gone to bring Hagar to Abraham his father that he should marry her. Okay, now this is totally midrashic.
Okay, because there's nothing to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But the question, why is he in Be'er Lahai Roi? That's where Abraham dwelt, right? And one of the things, I mean, it doesn't jump out at you, but what contact does Abraham have with Isaac subsequent to the Akedah? None.
None.
Zero.
Right?
Right.
None. Right? So why is he in Be'er Lahai Roi? Why is he coming from Be'er Lahai Roi, which is where Abraham dwells, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, that's right, that he named it Be'er Lahai, right? So, because he went to bring Hagar to Abraham that he should marry her. Now, here's where we really need, and, you know, if I had more time, I would have maybe delved into this a little bit more. But why is Isaac so concerned that Abraham should marry Hagar? And I'm asking that as a legitimate question. This is not a Socratic or leading question. I don't know.
Well, I mean, maybe he's just this kind of nice guy. I mean, here's his dad. His mom's dead. he's 100 and whatever. And, it's nice that he has sheep and cattle, but, he's
Like,
an
he's all
old
alone
person.
by
But
himself.
he's old by himself, and he's making sure that there's somebody there to be with him.
Yeah, but why Hagar?
Establish a relationship with Ishmael.
Maybe.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Because
It wasn't like, it's kind of, that's what was the show where they did the lady with Jacob, the red tent.
Yeah.
He lived in the house, with her no, that wasn't right. He wasn't born yet when Hagar was kicked out of the say. Maybe he knew her, but that wouldn't be consistent. But he could have heard stories.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just interesting. Although the establishing a relationship I like, because as we're going to see,
they did.
which we may not see, but it's in there.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and how, and it's, I mean, look, you can find something related to current events in virtually any parsha, right? But at the end of this parsha, and Rashi comments on it, like I said, we may not get there. At the end of this parsha, Abraham dies. Isaac and Ishmael bury him together, right? I'm not a friend of mine, a rabbi that I knew in Israel who did a lot of work with Israeli Jews and Israeli Arabs, wrote a book about his experience called The Reunion of Isaac and Ishmael, right? And it's interesting to me that, I mean, if you look at the response of the pogrom in Pittsburgh, and I'm calling it a pogrom because what was unique about a pogrom is that the government encouraged it. Now, did the government encourage it? No. But is the president indirectly responsible for it? I believe he is. Anyway, the group that responded most quickly and most thoroughly was the Muslim community, right? I mean, they raised hundreds of thousands of dollars to cover the burial and the medical expenses and so on and so forth. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. I will tell you also that the first message of condolence that we received was from the mosque in Germantown. Okay. And I think it's not I really think it's not an accident. I mean, because, one of the untold stories of American interfaith is that on an institutional level, there are excellent relationships between Jews and Muslims. Okay, for all kinds of reasons, including the fact that they're like 2 generations behind us, and they come to us and they say, show us how you did it, right? Because we are the first major non-Christian group in this country, right? And also, 90% of American Muslims are not Arabs.
That's correct.
Okay, having said that, the Germantown Mosque is more Arab than most. The imam is from Jordan. Okay, the macher who paid for most of the building is from Egypt. Right? In fact, the imams, people don't know, the imam speaks a fairly decent Hebrew. He's from Jordan. But remember, there's a peace treaty between Israel and Jordan, and there are Jordanians who work legally in Israel. And he has spent time in Israel, and he speaks some Hebrew. But Isaac and Ishmael are brothers. Isaac and Ishmael are brothers. And the tragedy, you could really go to town on this. The tragedy is, when do they come together? Only after their father has died, right? And how many of us have relatives that we only see at funerals, right?
It's true.
We have, and I remember once a few years ago, a great aunt of mine. I'm not even sure if she's a great aunt of mine. I guess she was a great aunt of mine. She subsequently died, but she had a 90th birthday party. Okay, and it was somebody that I barely knew. I'd met her maybe twice in my life. And pro forma, I received an invitation. And I'd been to a few funerals, and I said, I'm going to go. I mean, normally I would like, oh, thanks for the invitation. I'm busy, right? But I said, because I'm tired of having all these relatives that I only see at funerals, right? So let me see them at a simcha also, right? But it takes a death sometimes to bring people together, right? And and so here it's not just Ishmael, right? I mean, because if you take the rabbinic genealogy seriously, so Ishmael is the Muslims and Esau is the Christians, right? And Esau has reached out his hand in friendship also, right? The question, as always, is, so, friendship forged in tragedy, can it continue afterwards, right? When things are a little bit calmer. But anyway, end of sermon. So let's go to verse 63. Now, so they're coming back. So Isaac is on his way. Now, where is he going? I don't know where he's going.
Is it mentioned?
No, it doesn't. But
No, it's right, goes straight there.
right. But anyway, so this is where they're going to meet. Okay. Vayetze Yitzchak lasuach basadeh lifnot erev v'yisa einav vayar v'hinei gemalim ba'im. Isaac went forth, and what does Eith Chaim say? Walking in the field toward evening. Okay, and walking. The translation of the Hebrew lasuach is based on the Arabic word saha, to take a stroll. Another translation from the Hebrew word siach, to talk, to meditate, to pray, has Isaac chatting with his friends. Okay, lasua, right? But Rashi says it means to pray. Right? And so again, we have an example of the translator translating according to Rashi. Okay? Lasuach, I mean, it's hard to say what it really means because, it's not like, this is not a word that exists in modern Hebrew, right? There's a cognate word, lesocheach, right? A sicha is a chat or a conversation, sicha. So, but in modern Hebrew, you wouldn't say lasuach, you say lisocheach. Okay, but lasuach is related. But anyway, he went out to do whatever this lasuach is, and he lifted his eyes and saw, and behold, camels were approaching. Lasuach, according to Rashi, lashon tefillah, Kamo yishpoch sicho. He pours out his prayer. Right, lasuach, according to Rashi, means to pray. Okay, go at the bottom, walking. The Talmud takes the word to mean praying. Rebecca saw Isaac praying and was impressed by the piety of her future husband. Right, she likes him because he's very frum. Right, the sages maintain that Isaac instituted the afternoon service of mincha. Right, Abraham instituted shacharit, Isaac instituted mincha, and Jacob instituted mariv. Okay.
Makes it easy to remember.
Yeah, sure. All right. Vatisa Rivka et eineha v'tere et Yitzchak v'tipol me'al hagamal. Rebecca lifted her eyes and she saw Isaac, and I'm not going to translate it, but tipol me al hagamal. All right. She let herself down from the camel.
But it could be fell, right? That same word.
Yeah. She alighted from the camel, right? Some Jewish commentators observe that this phrase probably belongs after verse 65. Well, whatever. But yes, I mean the sort of, I mean, part of me wants to say that the plain meaning of this verse, as Gail said, yes, is she fell off the camel, right? Now,
She saw it. She saw
right,
it.
she's right. She's so, like, you could see it in your mind's eye, right? She's like so dumbstruck by his beauty of character, of course, right? Not physically. I mean, I'm sure he was very handsome too, but that, you know, that she falls off the camel, right? Now, and then we say, well, the translators don't like falling. It's not respectable for her, you know, the matriarch or people to fall off the camel. So but in all fairness, the language does change, right? And just because today
It's fall.
Vatipo means she fell, I can't guarantee that that's exactly what it meant. Then. All right. Vatere and Yitzhak, she saw Isaac, Rata oto hadur vatohe mifanav. All right. She saw his splendor and she was astonished by him. Right? Vatipol, hishmita atzma la'aretz. She slipped off towards the earth. Okay, so actually for Rashi, maybe she did actually fall. As the Targum says, va'atrakinat, she leaned. She leaned towards the earth, but did not reach the ground. As it is said, please lower your pitcher. Da, 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 da. Though he fall, he will not be cast down, meaning that if he falls toward the earth, he will not reach the ground.
She was suspended.
No, well, all right, no, but he's just trying to that what tipol means to slip off,
Yeah.
right? So, in other words, I guess I'm not sure. I guess what she's saying is not that she fell,
She sort of slid off.
but
the
she
camel.
sort of slid off the
the
camel.
Yeah, without really.
Yeah.
Right,
falling.
she slid off the camel, which certainly would be a way of getting off the camel quickly, right? Because because we all know this. The normal, how would you normally get off a camel?
Get a ladder.
Don't look at me. I wouldn't get on one to begin with. It's too
Okay, so
high.
Gail wouldn't get off because she wouldn't get on one.
I don't like heights as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, Stan, do you know how to get off a camel?
Very easily.
Very easily. Okay.
Down on the ground, right?
How do you get down from a camel? You don't. You get down from a duck, right? Or a goose, right? No, the normal way that you get down off a camel is you have the camel kneel,
Yes.
and then you get off of it, right? But that takes time, right? So if she was in really a hurry because she was really like blown away by him and she's got to get to him like immediately, then yeah, so she could sort of slide off the camel, right? But, I mean, that, like, how do you, if you think about it, I mean, far be it from me to agree with Rashi, but it actually makes sense, right? That would be a way, like, how do you get down, like,
a sliding board, right?
well, but you don't have I mean, like, let's say, right,
Sliding
but like, I mean, when you were a kid, right? When you were a kid and you were in the gym and the gym had a stage at the end, right? Or the all-purpose room in the shul, right? And there's a stage. Like, and how did you get down if you didn't want to walk all the way to the end of the stage and walk down? But you didn't really jump off, you slid, right? You kind of slid, right? And that's what I think she might have done, right? So that is quicker than trying to get the camel to kneel. But nobody's going to jump off a camel. That's really dangerous,
Well, and
right?
she was used to, probably used to riding camels anyhow.
Of course she was, but the normal procedure would be to have the camel kneel.
How do you get a camel to kneel?
They kneel, they collapse down. They
Yeah,
kind of bend.
right, I know that, but how do you instruct
train
them
them
to
so
do
they-
Well, they're trained to do it.
That's right.
Right. They're trained to do it.
Try it when I get that.
Yeah.
Train a camel.
Right. I mean, how do you get down off your camel?
Right.
Right. All these years and
Oh, how do you get on the camel? The camel kneels. You don't carry a step ladder with you.
right, the camel kneels. Right. I mean, it does. It's part of the way that they're trained. Okay. I'm not sure exactly what the command is, but yes, the camels kneel. That's how you get on them or off them. Right, which is still no fun because they don't get up all four legs at the same time. Right? I mean, they when they get up, the back legs go up first and you're like, it's not fun. I mean, I know, I've done it once.
Me too.
Right? It's not fun. Okay. Now this is a weird verse. Okay, V'yavieha Yitzchak ha'ohela. Isaac brought her to the tent. Sarah imo, Sarah his mother. Right? I mean, like,
she's dead already.
well, of course. No, he brought her to Sarah's tent.
Okay, so they kept Sarah's tent. Sort of.
Right. He didn't bring Sarah to her tent. He brought Rebecca to Sarah's tent. But the Hebrew is weird. All right? In other words, Vayavieha Yitzchak ha'ohela. That makes perfect sense. Isaac brought her to the tent. Sarah imo, Sarah his mother. Right? I mean, it's
Should it
not...
say shell, Sarah imo?
Right, it should say, but then you wouldn't say ha'ohela, right? Or even you don't even need the shell. If you said, like, because you have a construct. If it's, I mean, it should really be v'yavieha Yitzchak le'ohel Sarah imo, to the tent of, right? The ha with the ha and the ha at the end. That's directional. I mean, like habaita, right? Right? You probably know that.
Possessive?
No,
Possessive? No.
that's beta, right? Beta is her house. Habaita is if you want to say let's go home, be nelech habaita. Okay, if you want to say let's go to the city, nelech ha'ira. Okay, the ha at the beginning and at the end means to this place. Okay, habaita ha'ira ha'ohela. But the Sarah imo is just sort of floating there, right? We understand the intention, right? But the grammar is weird. Okay.
But you said we should, this because we just corrected is correct. You said last week.
No, right? No, look, it is what it is, right? We're not going to go like go back and change all the Sifrei Torah and get rid of the two Hayes and put a Lamed instead, right? We're not going to do that, right? But nevertheless, the grammar is weird. Okay, and Rashi's going to have fun with this, but in my opinion, in a kind of creepy way. All right. Vayikach at Rivcha, and he took Rebecca, but took means, right? He consummated his relationship with her. Vatehi lo la'isha, she became his wife. V'ye'ehaveha, and he loved her. Vayinachem Yitzchak acharei imo, and Isaac was comforted for the loss of his mother. I know, kind of weird.
That's the word I know, because that's nachmu again.
Right, nachamu. Right,
Yeah, see, I
nachamu.
finally got that word down.
Right,
I'm not
okay.
gonna get the word comfort. I learned that
Right.
now.
All right, ha'ohela Sarah imo, to the tent of Sarah his mother. But again, remember the grammar's a little weird. Right? Vayavieha ha'ohela, he brought her to the tent. Vaharehi Sarah imo, and behold, she was now.
Oh,
Right now,
That is.
the translation softens it a little. Right? You see, she was like. Oh no, it does say she was Sarah his mother.
Likeness.
Yeah.
Right. Right. He brought her to the tent. Right, because that's like if you translate it literally, depending on where you put the punctuation. Vayavieha Yitzchak ha'ohela, Isaac brought her to the tent. Sarah imo, Sarah is mother. Right, he brought her to the tent. Sarah is mother. Right, so he brought her to the tent, and behold, she was Sarah his mother. Klomar. That is to say, v'ne'eset dugmat Sarah imo. She became the likeness of Sarah, his mother. Shekol zman shesarah kayemet hayan ner daluk mi'erev Shabbat le'erev Shabbat. As long as Sarah was alive, there was a candle burning from Erev Shabbat to the next Erev Shabbat. Uvracha mitsuya be'isa, and a blessing attached to the dough. Ba'anan kashur al ha'ohel, a cloud was attached to the tent. Umi shemeta pasku ukshabat rivka chazru. When she died, all these things stopped, and when Sarah came, when Rebecca came, they returned. Okay, so Rashi makes it creepy and then not creepy, right?
Well, he was probably had thoughts of his mother, and Rebecca was just doing things that were so meaningful.
Sure. I mean, and that's what Rashi says, right? In other words, when Sarah was alive, basically he had somebody to make Shabbos for him, right? He had somebody to light the Shabbos candles. He had fresh challah, right? He had a cloud, which is a sign of God's blessing on the tent. And when Sarah died, he didn't have anybody to make Shabbos for him, right? So now Rebecca comes and she takes care of his Shabbos needs. All right. Acharei imo, for his mother. It is the way of the world that as long as a person's mother is alive, he is attached to her, but as soon as she dies, he finds comfort in his wife. Right. You're making a face too, Gail, right? It's weird, isn't it? It's a little weird, I think. I don't know.
As though one is a substitute for the other, but
I mean,
that doesn't.
I can look at it the other way, because I remember before David announced that he was married, and I had gone through this big shock because he got married, and he was married, only I thought he was engaged.
Right.
And so I was like, I'm losing my son. So when he announced he was married, when he announced that he'd been married for 2 months already, I wasn't a big shock. But I mean, for me, that's like, I'm sorry, he married her, and now I'm second. This says she stayed first. No.
Right. No, that's right. I mean, of course, the chronology in this particular case is that Sarah dies and then he marries Rebecca, right? So there's no rivalry. Now, I get that there is rivalry, right? I mean, I get that. Okay, not only do I get that, I lived through it, okay? That my mother felt pushed out of my life by my wife, right? But I want to tell you, I did not stay more attached to my mother than my wife for the 13 and a half years, 14 years that my mother was still alive and I was married to Kelly, right? Not to say that there was not rivalry between them. but the rivalry was between them. It didn't really, it was rivalry about me, but it was not rivalry that I was involved in, right? I mean, so I don't know. But you know what? Society changes, right? And it doesn't mean that it wasn't that way in biblical times, and it doesn't mean that it wasn't that way in Rashi's time, right? I mean, I do get the rivalry part, and yes, and maybe, and again, for Isaac it was different because his mother died before he got married, so maybe in that sense she was a replacement for her. I don't know, but if you bigger than, I don't know. There's a little air of incest that leaves me a little bit uncomfortable. But, could be just me. Verse 25. Vayosef Avraham went on and took another wife, and her name was Keturah. Keturah zu Hagar. Okay. V'nikret Keturah al shem shenaim ma'aseha keketoret ukshekashra pitcha shelo nizdavga la'adam miyom sheparsha mi'avraham. So she was called Keturah. Her deeds were as beautiful as incense, which is ketoret. And because she tied, the Aramaic is katar, right? In Hebrew it's kashar. She tied her opening, right? Another, I guess, like a chastity belt, right? She was not intimate with any man from the day she separated from Abraham. Okay, because even though she was forced to separate from Abraham, he was so like amazing and so holy. Right, because we saw that 2 weeks ago, right? That Sarah says, you're lucky that you're going to be able to be intimate with this very holy man, et cetera, et cetera. And Keturah, Hagar apparently agreed. So she didn't, she left Abraham, but she was not intimate with any other man. Which gets us back to why Isaac is going to bring her to marry Abraham. So maybe he is trying to establish a relationship. Okay. Now the next one, Ve'ele yemei shnei Chayyei Avraham asher chai ma'at shana v'shivim shana v'chamesh shanim. These are the days of the years of Abraham's life that he lived, 100 years and 70 years and 5 years. Okay, now what's going on here, I don't want to spend too much time on it, is that this is echoing the very beginning of the Parsha, right? Where Sarah dies. Vayehiyu Chayyei Sarah Mea Shana ve'esrim Shana ve'sheva Shanim Shnei Chayyei Sarah. All right, so the language is very similar, right? Sarah lived 100 years and 20 years and 7 years, right? Not 127 years, 100 years and 20 years and 7 years. And Abraham lived 100 years and 70 years and 5 years. And then there's a famous Rashi that 120 and 7, that when she was 100, she was as beautiful as a 20-year-old and as sinless as a 7-year-old. Okay. So here, when he was 100, he was as one who is 70, and when he was 70 years old, he was as one who is 5 years old without sin. So this is a gloss, right? This is a gloss on the Rashi, and pretty much that first Rashi from Chayyei Sarah, that's something that, like, it was one of the first Rashis that I learned. Okay, now of course I learned it like my first year of rabbinical school. If I had a traditional learning, I probably would have learned it in 3rd or 4th grade, right? Because it's like it's a Rashi that everybody knows. So even, so if you're looking at that now, of course, chances are you're studying the whole parsha and not just the third, but you don't need to be told that this is a gloss on what was at the beginning of the chapter. Okay. We're going to actually cover all the material that I prepared tonight. That itself is worthy
That
of a
is-
celebration.
Yes.
V'yikabru oto Yitzhak v'Yishmael banav, Isaac and Ishmael his sons buried him el me'arat hamachpelah, in the cave of Machpelah, el ste Ephron, in the field of Ephron ben Sohar Hachiti, the field of Ephron, the son of Sohar the Hittite, Asher al Panei Mamre, which is facing Mamre. Yitzhak v'Yishmael. All right, Isaac and Ishmael. Mikan she'asa Yishmael tshuva v'holich et Yitzhak lifanav. From this we may learn that Ishmael did tshuva, and he let Isaac go before him. V'hi seva tova shene'amar ba'Avraham. This is the good old age back in before that Abraham lived as seva tova. He had a good old age.
Why is Ishmael repenting?
Oh, because he was a bad guy.
Yeah, but I thought 2 weeks ago we determined that he wasn't necessarily
but it
such a bad
says
guy.
in that parsha that
He'll be a
Hagar,
wild,
that he will be a wild and basically a bad guy.
right?
That's the piece that I read.
Right. No, look, I mean, the tradition, just like Esau, right? Esau said, tradition of Esau is like this bad guy, but he did excel in filial piety,
Yes.
right? So Ishmael also, we saw from that midrash, I was 13, you were 8 days old, right? That he certainly had love of God, right? But he was also, not a great guy, right? Which you can be. Samson, right? Samson loved God, but he was
But
not a
he's
great
good
guy, right?
Not a great guy.
Well, even David had his problems.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, for sure. All right, but the point is, if you want to read the verse very narrowly, Isaac and Ishmael. It should be Ishmael and
Because he's the
Isaac,
older,
right?
Yes.
But Isaac, how do we know Ishmael did tshuva? Because he let Isaac go first, right? We could also say he did tshuva because he fulfilled the mitzvah of burying his father, right? Which is what it means. In other words, which he must have done tshuva a while ago, because Abraham knew about it. And when the verse tells us that Abraham had that, his elderly years were good. Why were they good? Because he knew that Ishmael had done tshuva, right? So that because clearly, and when I say clearly, I really mean clearly. Abraham never stopped loving Ishmael, right? There's no indication ever that Abraham ever stopped loving Ishmael, right? All right.
All right.
Great.
This was interesting, as always.
Very good, Stan. Good night.
Very good. Night.
Bonsoir.
Shabbat shalom. Bonsoir.
Tomorrow evening.
Great.